chairman of, or I should say chair of the Appropriations Committee and transportation and all that. And so road funding is a big thing that's come up, and the governor has her own plan, and fortunately the House has now got a majority of Republicans, and so we've got our plan. So Donni, thank you so much for, let me get your presentation up here. There we go. And very good.
Thank you.
Donni Steele, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks. I might have to push this up so I can see what I'm looking at. So, you know what? Can you guys hear me okay? Oh, loud. Oh, perfect. Isn't that nice? So what I have here is a quick PowerPoint presentation, and it's just to be able to understand the road funding a little bit before we go into the new funding. But I just wanted to be able to introduce myself first for people that don't know me. I'm Donni Steele. I'm the state rep for District 54, which is Orion next door. And I was reelected in November. I'm on my second term. And I was lucky to be on appropriations, which is the budget. Everybody, you know, what's an appropriation? It's actually with the budget. And I'm on the subcommittee for the transportation. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my background and why I ended up in the appropriations. I used to be a realtor, and I sold houses for 20 years. So I was in small business, and I went home to be with kids. And when I went home to be with kids, I thought, you know what, I need to get involved in my community, just like everybody. Went to a couple meetings at the township, and I said, you know what, I'm going to run for a township board. And I ran for board for 4 years, and then I became the township treasurer. And I ran for treasurer because I felt that there was a lot of resources that were not being used effectively. And the guy that was the treasurer of the township really didn't come to work. And so I thought, you know what? I don't have a CPA license. I don't have a financial license. I have a business major from Western Michigan, and I ran a business. So I thought if I just did what I knew how to do at the treasurer's level, for business, I could do it at the treasurer's level for the township as well, too. So what I found the most interesting, of course, was the money part. As a treasurer, you know, you collect money, but it's also how you spend the money and to be able to follow the money. And I found it was very interesting in these municipalities. Sometimes you can follow it to the penny, and some you're like, it's a ball of yarn and you can't really figure out where it starts and where it finishes. So by the time I left, I had a very, very good understanding of how the budget ran. Our budget was about $15 million at the township, and I thought, well, you know what I could do? I could take this knowledge, and I could do the same thing at the state. It should be easy peasy. Well, you know, when you're dealing with $15 million, and then you go to the state level, it's $82 billion. And the way that they break it up to make it, you know, where people can understand and be a part of it, is you have an appropriations committee for the House, and you have an appropriations committee for the Senate. And you have to remember, appropriations bill is just like any other legislative bill. And it has to be passed by the House, the Senate, and the governor has to sign it. And so that's why you have this constant negotiation with what they call budget, is because it actually has to be a bill to be able to be passed. So when I started, it was I'm on my second term. It's a 2-year term. There's 110 state representatives. There's 38 senators and 1 governor. So I'm on my second term. It's a 2-year term. I'm on my second term being in the appropriations on the transportation committee. And I just want to be able to say that when you are the majority, like we are for the House, you actually put the budget together. When you're in the minority, you actually have zero say-so in the budget process, what goes in there and how much is being spent. So we have committee meetings for our budgets of sub-appropriations for the transportation. So Matt's going to get it back on screen for me so I can just kind of go through of how the funding is. There we go. So I'll start there. Oh yes, when I started, the budget started at $80 billion, and the previous administration was at $62 billion. So it's gone up 40% since since the Democrats have been running the majority of the House appropriations and, of course, the whole state budget. So what I've got here is the fiscal analysis, which you have our first meeting for our committee was you have a fiscal agent that you're assigned to go over, help you understand the budget a lot better. And I just wanted to just go over it briefly, just kind of break it down, but basically, not only do we do the roads with our budget, but we also pay for public transportation and the public transportation. And there's also the ferry boats, that's part of the transportation budget, and aeronautics is also part of the transportation budget. So our fiscal year is October through the following September, which is kind of funky. And I think that this is the key here is where does the funds come from? Our budget for the transportation is $6.8 billion, and the federal dollars that we get for our roads are $2.2 billion. The local roads, and the big one is the state restricted revenue at $4 billion. So you can see just where our funding sources are. And then what is the transportation share of the total state budget? And can you
get a little closer to the microphone?
You still can't hear me. I can hear myself really well, so is that better, you guys? Okay, I just got it right in my face. That's better, maybe. Okay. So there's the transportation share of the total budget, and you can see, why are our roads bad? Well, you can see we don't really take them into consideration too much because we only give, a total 8% of the total budget actually goes to our roads. You can see Health and Human Services are right there, and school aid is there, and that's why, those are the big portions of the budget. Now, the big budget's $80 billion, but you have to remember most of that is federal funded programs and Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare, road funding. A lot of it's coming directly, school aid, it's coming directly from the federal government. But the general fund is actually state dollars, and that's about $15 billion of state dollars, and that's our portion of the state dollars. You can see it's only 1%. What now?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then you could just see where the increases of the funding over the years, and you're looking at a year from 2006 to 2025. So it's gone up gradually, but not a lot. That's just another graph, the same. The restricted is, and I'm going to go over the restricted, the green is the federal, and then you've got just other small fundings of general funds. Okay, transportation. We take care of the roads, public transportation, aeronautics, and bridges. And you can see the road and bridges are $5 billion, public transportation's $800 million, and aeronautics is $330 million. These are big numbers. You get used to saying billions a lot. It's staggering. My calculator doesn't quite do it right. You have to use like the calculus calculators. So how it's divided. So you have 631 different road agencies in the state of Michigan. And you can see the state trunk lines, those are like MDOT roads. They get $1.6 billion, and the local road agencies get $2.5 billion. And then you can see maintenance, administrative, bus, debt, public transportation, aeronautics, all those come out of the transportation budget. But local road agencies, think of villages, county roads, and then your state trunk lines is MDOT. MDOT, I-75, M24, Dixie Highway, Woodward, Telegraph, those are all your state roads, 696, 96, 69, those are all your MDOT roads. The local roads, think of what road are we on? Clarkston Road, White Lake Road, Walden Road. Those are all your county roads. And then you think of your villages, you know, you're going downtown, you know, Clarkston, it's downtown. Those are your village roads, and they are a different agency than your White Lake Road going off to Dixie Highway. Different road, different road, different road agency. Okay, where does the money come from? Gasoline and vehicle registration. So, did you ever wonder why when you go to Ohio, the gas prices are different than, you know, South Carolina, different than Michigan? Well, the gas tax federally is 18 cents, and then each state will put on a different fee on top of it. And so you can see some, you know, like California where it's, what, $6 a gallon? And, you know, you can go down to South Carolina, it's a lot less. It depends on what they charge you on the gasoline fuel tax. I'll keep on doing that. And your registration. And the registration, you know, when you go get your tabs, those little tabs, and they cost, you know, $500 for that little sticker every year, that goes into the roads. You've been paying into the roads through those. And it's based on the value of your car. Bigger car, more expensive, you pay bigger tabs, bigger prices for your tabs. Marijuana, we get some money, and diesel fuel, we get money, and not we, the transportation budget gets money. It's your money that goes into the roads. And then you have certain general fund money that goes into it as well, too. You can see how it's broken down. I'm just going to kind of whiz through these because I don't want to bore you guys to death with all these numbers. But I think that when they call about restricted funds, it's restricted by law, gasoline tax, and your tabs will go into the roads. And luckily, the federal government, well, with that 18%, it goes to the federal government, and they give it back to us, but only for federally approved roads. So I-75, some of the bigger highways get the federally funded roads. You're not going to probably get federal funding for Sashabaw. Maybe Sashabaw. Maybe not, what's the one right downtown? M15 through the village. You probably are not going to get federal funding, but maybe. Just depends if it qualifies. So let's just keep going. Bridges. We have about 12,000 bridges in the state of Michigan. Half of them are owned by MDOT, and half of them are owned by the local districts. Okay, state trunk lines, 9,000 miles. This is hard to see the screen with the glasses. I got to work on this next time. Let's see, state trunk lines, 9,000 miles. County roads, 89,000 miles. Village roads, 21,000 miles, for a total of 120,000 miles worth of roads. You can see that the thing is, the state trunk lines are the widest, right? And we have the smallest amount of them, but you can see that who travels the most. It's always and your commercial cars and trucks, they're going down the trunk lines mostly. That's how it's broken down. Bridges, I talked about bridges briefly, and this is deck area. So you think of like overpasses on I-75, like going over Big Beaver, right? 75 goes over Big Beaver right there. You think of how it's 4, 6, 8 lanes. That's a bridge, that's a deck. You can see the girth of it is, you know, by millions of square feet, whereas, you know, our little roads going, the county roads, they're not as big. So you can see the cost of the decks are going to be much more expensive. I think, like, you know, they're closing 696, and it's going to be closed for 2 years, and you will always be able to go west, but you will never be able to go east for 2 years, because they don't want to reroute it as they work on each side of the road. And one of the purposes is that when they did 696, they did the bridge over in Oak Park and in Southfield, and the bridge over the overpass has the trees, and now it's got the stalagmites. hanging from the bridge right now. It's because when you water trees, it goes through the bridges, and now they have to repair it. And that's one of the biggest major repairs over there. That's a $50 million, $50 million bridge that they're repairing, that one bridge. And so that's why it's going to take 2 years, and then they'll resurface 696 that way. But that's a huge project. Oakland County is really lucky in the sense of who gets the most money as it falls into all these buckets. Oakland County gets close to $117 million for the user fees and the gas tax. We get the most money out of any county in the state for our roads. So. But you got to think about our roads. We have all of them, 696, 96, I-75, lots of big roads. Public transportation, $805 million goes to public transportation for capital operating. There are 80 different public transportation bus services, transits in the state of Michigan. So again, it's like a lot of different agencies running the buses. You've got big ones, CATA, that's in Lansing, SMART in Detroit, that's running up through here, and then you've got the WODAs and the NODAs, and all those are funded by different agencies, but they get federal funding, and then they get state funding as well, too. We own airplanes. I didn't know we owned airplanes. We own airports. I didn't know we owned airports. We owned a ferry. We own a water in Detroit. Where's it? Dock. What is that called? Port. We have a port too. I didn't know we had ports. So, local programs, state programs. This is going back to how it's appropriated. You can see half the budget goes to about 50-50. And you can see this is just our revenue for the history of the money that we have spent over the years since 1997. And you can see it's pretty flat. It's a pretty flat. It didn't go up until like 2015 when Snyder came in and he raised the gas tax, and he started paying off the debt and put money back into the roads. You can see that there was a big bump. And then you can see in 2021, you can see it continued to go forward. Our current governor borrowed $3 billion to fund the roads, fix the darn roads. Well, we did it on a credit card. So $3 billion worth of debt. We have close to $6 billion worth of debt for our road funding right now. We pay close to $340 million in debt payments on an annual basis. So there is still $700 million that still can be bonded to do roads, and it is done by the commission, the road, the Michigan Transportation Road Commission. They can go out and get debt basically by the governor's, by that commission. She's in charge of Michigan Department of Transportation. That's her department. She runs it. We oversee the funding. We oversee the policies, but it's run by the executive branch. So that commission, when they want to go out and borrow more money, they can go out and borrow more money, and if they approve it, but you can't. And the reason why they can do it without going through the legislation is because of the user fees and the gas tax, money comes in on a month, all the time. So we have money coming in, so therefore we can pay the debt. And so therefore they can go incur debt because they have money that will pay the debt. So they can do that without legislation. And you can see just same thing. History of where the funding came from. And state trunk line, combined freeway, non-freeway. This is our goal is to make sure that the condition of the roads are good and fair. And you can see that we're doing okay, but then you can see moving into the future, if we don't fund the roads further, you can see that we're going to go down relatively quickly. And then you have to also remember that when you fund roads, you have all these contractors that come in and they hire people and they buy the trucks, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and they are set up to, to buy the concrete and make the concrete, the asphalting companies and all those trucks. If they can't keep their men and their machines busy, they're going to pack up their wagon and go to a state that has regular funding to keep that funding at a upward projection. Otherwise, if they can't do it here, they'll find other states to be able to do that. So you have to keep that funding on a projection to where they know that they can depend on doing the work. So let's say that I've said all that. There, the end. So I've said all that to say that here we are at a great spot of being the House has the majority, is that we have talked about the roads forever and ever and ever, and I'm really happy for the leadership, Mike Harris, colleague, and Matt Hall, who is the speaker. They came out with a road package to spend $3 billion on the roads into perpetuity until either we need more or we've got too much. And we came up with a plan with an 8-bill package plan, and to be able to put $3 billion on an annual basis into the road funding. And the good part about it is without raising taxes. And that's what's so important to stress, is it is without raising taxes. And one of the major ways of doing one of the fundings that's about $1 billion is that when you pay gas, when the tankers go to downriver and they fill up their big tankers, they pay sales tax there to fill up that tank. And then they go to the gas stations and they charge them sales tax. That sales tax never goes into our roads. That just goes into the general fund bucket that can be utilized for schools and other things. And it's close to $1 billion of sales tax that one of the bills says that tax is going into our roads. So it's $1 billion. And then corporate welfare has been a hot topic lately, and it's used. You have corporate income tax. So General Motors pays a corporate income tax, and a lot of those have been going into mega credits. I don't know if anybody remember mega credits. Mega credits are where GM doesn't have to pay as much income tax, and so there's 9 corporations that have been given mega credits, and what we are proposing is that mega credit money going into our roads from the corporate income tax. So when you add up the mega credits, the corporate welfare from MEDC, and that gas tax, it adds up to $3 billion. And it's just reallocating these funds into our roads. And so we're really excited about being able to do this. We voted them out of the House. We did get bipartisan support. I mean, what person would not vote for the road funding without raising taxes? So I think it was like 60-40 in the House. Now the Senate says, well, we don't like these bills. And we say, okay, we'll come back with something that you do like. And they have not. And the governor's like, well, I have some ideas. She liked the corporate. She liked the gas tax that's been discussed for 20 years in Lansing, but she says that we should pay a user tax on Lyft and Amazon, and I mean, literally that. I don't want to say it doesn't bring a lot of money in, but brings $270 million. That's not a lot of money when you need billions, and I think it's a poke in the eye. You guys, every time you get a package at your front door, you're going to have to pay a fee, or get a lift, you have to pay a fee. That's a user fees are taxes. And the other one that she came up with is when you do the digital advertising on your computers, she wanted to tax that. And she wanted to raise the corporate income tax. That was another one, to raise the taxes there. Also raise the taxes, this doesn't necessarily fall in the same fund, but for hunting fees, raise the taxes there. And we say we can do this without raising taxes. So we have a plan. We've voted it out of the House, so we need people like you in this room to say, no taxes. Let's use the money that we have for our roads, and we can, the $3 billion is a number in which MDOT and the road commissions have said that they need to be able to put the roads in an average good condition moving forward. $3 additional billion, so that would be close to a $9 billion budget. So I think that's really my quick presentation. I don't think I have a lot of material, and it's very Oh, I do want to say one thing, Matt. Everybody will say, well, when you take the sales tax and you take it off the top and you put it into the roads, it's going to make the schools suffer. And one of the bill packages makes the schools whole. We figure it's about a $700 million shortfall to the schools when you take that sales tax and you put it in the roads. One of our bills backfills that to the schools, so we're not taking school money for that. So I'm just wondering if you guys have any questions? Yes, sir.
Where's the microphone?
Oh,
Oh, there it is. Yeah, oops. All right, this thing's on now. Anyway, is there more than one question? Okay, come on down then. We'll do it that way. But I'll start while people are coming down and ask you a quick question about, I'd like to ask you about Public Act 51, which forces the money to be allocated evenly among the counties. How do we eliminate that and get money allocated to where it's needed?
I love that question, and I would love to dismantle that, but I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think it's kind of like first steps first. Let's put money into the roads first. Let's get some movement on that, and we need to look at that moving forward in the future. However, it's allocated really based on, in the bottom bucket of the road commissions, of the 82 roads, it really is based on who has the most users fees paid. So a reason why that we get most of the bigger portion is because Oakland County pays the biggest amount of user fees. And so we get credited accordingly. That's part of Public Act 51. So that formula at that bottom does take that into consideration.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Oh, you guys here? Oh, there we go. All right, next question.
So my question is, have you thought about how the education was going to be organized here with the state of Michigan now that there is no Department of Education?
I'm on roads.
Okay, next question. Next question.
No, you know what? I do want to say that we are looking into how it's going to affect us, but the House Republicans did do a resolution saying that we support being able to fund the schools through federal funding, but let the states run their school districts. So we are in favor of not having our federal dollars go to the federal government to come back to the state, and we would rather just take the funds and either keep them here or just send them right back to us. I think that we would have, the closer to the home, the better it is.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Dave Bartles.
Pat Colbeck brought up the possibility of building the roads more cost-effective and different methods last longer, more expensive up front, but it's cost-effective. And I brought that up to somebody once, and a senator, whatever, and he said it's not effective and it's not good. And I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your presentation. Is that part of your plan, or?
That's a really good question, because I've heard that often. And there is a whole department in MDOT that is based on materials and how they pick the materials, how they pick their concrete, how they pick their asphalt, why they use those certain materials, and the cost analysis of that. It's on my list to dig into, because it is something that's talked about a lot. But there is a whole department within, and I don't know if anybody knows, the Department of MDOT is like 6,000 people. It's huge. They have, 63 rest areas and 3 welcoming centers, and they also have TCS. You can go there if you have a road problem. You can go there. There's, I think, 63 regional offices. So it's in that pile. I'm going to dig it out. I just haven't had time yet.
Very good, thanks, Dave. Next question, sir.
Representative Steele, a friend of mine is a civil engineer. Oops, looks like it's a friend of mine's a civil engineer. Yeah, a friend of mine's a civil engineer. Anyways,
I think a friend of his is a civil engineer.
so he says. So, anyways, the friend who's the civil engineer.
Don't say civil engineer yet. Okay. I'm teasing.
What I'm trying to get at is this guy worked in Toronto. He came here, visited a few years back, and it was in the winter. And I said, boy, these potholes are horrific. And after the winter, that's when they could swallow a Volkswagen in Michigan. Unlike in some of the places I've been to, like Minneapolis, Minnesota, those kind of places. So he said, he says, I was wondering about this because the materials they're using here are completely wrong for the winter. He says they need to spend a little bit more and it'll last a whole lot longer. So he said that this is very peculiar. He couldn't figure out why they're doing this in Michigan. So is it possible, are we doing no bid contracts? Are we doing heavily bid contracts? Are we looking at competition? Are we looking at all options to try to stop this endless cycle of potholes where the amount of money I spend on my tires and my wheels, rims getting banged up, it's been continuous ever since I moved here from Ohio a long time ago.
Ohio spends more money on their roads, and they do toll roads, so they have more money going into the bucket. We did do a study for toll roads in the state of Michigan just to set up the toll roads to do toll roads cost $8 billion, and then you owe the toll road companies to be able to monitor it and all that stuff, and I thought I'd rather put $8 billion into our roads. So they do put more money into their roads. The contracts are low bids, but not always low bid, depending, and they do a variety of things, sometimes they're construction managed jobs, sometimes they're managed by MDOT, so it's a variety of things, so they do all different things, and I'm just starting to get into the weeds of it all, but you will have potholes, and you will be constantly filling them. It's kind of like cleaning out your gutters every year at your house. It's a constant maintenance issue. And I think that once we get our roads up to a better condition and they resurface them, I think we'll have less potholes. But I think we do need to put more money into them to make a big difference.
All right, thank you. 2 more questions. State Rep Mike Harris.
I'm going to let you hold it for me. Thank you for being my neighbor, Donnie.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks,
for coming out
Mike.
and explaining this. The budget is insane, so I appreciate your insight on it. Can you talk a little bit about this extra $3.1 billion? And does all of this money go through PA 51, or have we found a way to get this money to our local roads?
Very good question, and I didn't bring that up. $1 billion will go through Public Act 51, which goes to the buses, it goes to the aeronautics, it goes to all those other things. So $1 billion will go to that, but the other $2 billion will go basically to their local roads. And it's going to pass all of these other buckets, and it'll go into the local roads to almost $2 billion. And it's based on the amount of roads within your community as well, too. So, and right now, I just looked at the first chart for how that's broken down, and Oakland County gets a new pile of money, which is nice, and the small communities will get more money. Like, I know the village of Lake Orion, that's the only one that I looked at, was almost double the amount of money that they'll get than what they're normally getting. So, our village roads are terrible because you think about one road project costs $1 million, their whole operating budget for 5 years is $1 million. They don't have $1 million, or they're only getting $50,000 at a time. It takes a long time to do $1 million road project. So this should be a good shot in the arm.
Okay, last question.
That's only got it's a two-part, but thank you for your service, Don. But what I wanted to say is that the 50 states, Michigan's rated 47th as the worst roads in the nation. So if you got billions and billions going, why are these roads so bad?
We do not fund them as much as other states do. It is a funding, and it's the volume, it's the urban sprawl. We have, you think about urban sprawl, I mean, Detroit used to be Detroit where it was 1 million people. Now, all these communities have grown in these townships, and the infrastructure needs to expand accordingly, and we haven't invested like we should have over the years.
Now, the other part was, I worked at Booming Construction in Detroit where we make all the baskets for the highways. Well, all the highways are supposed to be 12 inches thick of concrete. They're only doing 8 inches, and then they put 4 inches of asphalt over the top, and that's cheating.
I will put that in my file. I really will, because
Surface roads around here, same way, it's supposed to be 12 inches.
when we have the materials, I'll ask them about that. I will.
They do 8 inches of concrete and 4 inches of asphalt.
Hey, how can we not have a question from State Senator Richards?
Thank you. I mostly just wanted to thank Donni Steele. She does a great job. In the Senate, it's really hard because we pass the worst stuff because we have far more Democrats than Republicans, and Donnie's part of that wall that holds it up. So thank you for that. I do want to talk about roads a little though. Yes, we could make our roads better and do far less miles. And Governor Gretchen Whitmer wants to make you think she's doing lots of miles, but yes, they're substandard, right? And she borrowed to do all that road work. And we had a 43% increase since she's taken office. How many of you got a 43% increase in your pay? She does not run the state right. She uses money in bad ways. She gives it away as hundreds of millions of dollars. She said she doesn't believe in dark money. She's taken over $20 million, $857,000 from one donor. I've worked under 5 governors. There's never been one that's less transparent. Michigan ranks 50th out of 50 states for transparency. Until we have transparency, we're not going to get what we deserve. And we're not going to get it with this governor. Oh, by the way, she's off to Europe again, bringing back business, I think. About $200,000 to go to Spain recently, too. But she borrowed against the teacher's pension twice. Here we have 43% increase. It's how you spend the money. It's not a lack of money. So thank you for sending Donnie and the others to put that wall up, because it's been the most frustrating couple of years of my career because of the way we've spent money and what we've done, and elections taking away the integrity. So thank you, Donnie.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, I like the last question, but we got former Waterford trustee Mark Monahan here, and he threatened to beat me up in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Ask a question.
So yeah, you mentioned this for local roads, but we're in townships here. A lot of the thing that comes for us is the residential roads. So is this funding really going to help that?
That's the plan. Driveways to highways. That's the
Okay.
plan.
So it's gonna help, hopefully reduce the cost that a resident is charged by the local road commission, which is a significant portion of the project, and reduce that.
That's the plan.
Great, well, that's good news.
Yeah.
State Rep Donni Steele, thank you so much, Donnie.